First steps. Okay, so the purpose of this competition is to build the strongest but lightest bridge possible using only craft sticks for middle school and balsa sticks for high school and white glue. So as a teacher, how do you get started? How do you introduce this activity to your students? If you look here where it says Mesa Curriculum Mars, yesterday one of the presentations was about our curriculum moving into Canvas. You should have received an email giving you access to that platform. If you did not, please talk to your center director, because with that access, you will have many things, one of them being all the curriculum for each one of our projects. So I went straight here to Bridges, which is what we're talking about. So I would start by introducing Bridges with a small activity. This is an activity you can do in 30 to 40 minutes. If you see, it would open this Word doc, and you have several resources here. You can start with the file folder bridge, you can start with spaghetti bridges, straw bridges, and if you click on these plans, everything is on there that you would need. There is also a slides presentation here, which is really useful, that you can go over with your students, and it talks about everything bridge related, how to construct the bridge, triangles, and so forth. So this is a great way to start as well and introduce this activity. Once you have done your first steps or introduce the activity, then you start building. We suggest that in order to save your desks or your tables or whatever you're using in your classroom from the blade cutting marks, all of that, a really easy way to do that is demonstrated in this picture. If you just get a piece of cardboard, there are obviously cutting mats that are a little bit more expensive, but cardboard works perfectly. You then on top of that put in a piece of graph paper where the students have already sketched, or that's where they sketch their bridge design. Then on top of that is a piece of wax paper. They can then automatically start building right on top of that with the wax paper, and that's just a simple little suggestion to make it a little bit easier for them and yourself. Okay, let's get started with Stick Together. So this competition is for middle school. It's either 6th graders or 7th and 8th grade can compete together. It's 1 to 3 students. The rules for all of our Mesa Day projects, I'm sure you know already. You can find them either at your local Mesa webpage or the UCOP webpage, which is mesa.ucop.edu. We've also linked them right here for you so that you have them. You can just click on that once you receive your presentation. So this is a nice visual for you to have in your classroom. You can print it out. It has all of your measurements on one picture so that students can understand it a little bit better. The only one that I'm going to touch on, because they're pretty self-explanatory, some students get confused with the minimum width for the roadway. So some students will build above the roadway. If they do so, they have to make sure that they leave at least 3.5 inches in the middle so that the testing plate can sit on it, because that is what we use to test with. And then if they don't do that, then they have a minimum of 4 inches or a max of 5 inches. I will go over some of the terminology for the bridges. It can be confusing. I know that firsthand, especially for students. Bridges are, in most Mesa Days, are the #1 DQ'd projects. So I hope this makes it a little bit easier for you to understand. #1, the longitudinal lamination. So that, as you see here, this picture, it's just sticks put on next to each other all the way across. That is only allowed on the roadway. Some students try to do something like this picture on the right hand side where they do the lamination on the top, and then they also do it all the way across the bottom, and they're automatically disqualified that way. In the rules, it also states no I-beams anywhere on the bridge. Something that I like to do for our students that we send out or we have them make at the school site is actually just make an I-beam. These are 2 I-beams put together. And then we put it up in front of a classroom somewhere with a big no. Because they will tend, especially sixth graders, seventh graders, that it's their first time building a bridge, they tend to try to do this, and this will automatically get them disqualified. So again, if you have them make a really simple I-beam, two sticks with one standing straight up, that is an I-beam, and this is not allowed anywhere on your bridge. The T-beams are only allowed on the roadway, nowhere else on the bridge. And then another thing that happens a lot is that the students, if they're working on wax paper like we suggest, or they add a lot of glue because it does take a long time to dry, they turn in their bridge that way. So that's automatically considered a coating, and it's a DQ. So wax paper will be your best friend for bridges. Please make sure you have plenty of it, and then just sand anything off of that bridge so that that will not be a problem. Okay, and let me make one clarification. I caught myself that in the previous slide, I said that wax paper would be your best friend. I meant sandpaper. In building bridges, sandpaper will be your best friend. Just make sure that the students have it next to them as they're creating their bridges. For civil structures, which is our high school competition, it's broken up into grades 9 and 10 and grades 11 and 12. It's 1 to 3 students per team. Once again, the link to the rules is right on here. This is, again, a nice snapshot for you, a nice visual for the students to have all of the measurements in one. What I will clarify on here that we see students miss a lot is the span. So the span is this green line at the bottom. It goes from here to here, obviously. But imagine a river going right through the center of this bridge. That is what the span is. You need to have an opening here with a minimum of 25 centimeters, and then the clearance is a minimum of 10 centimeters. Again, they also have to allow for a testing plate to sit right on top of the bridge. With the maximum width of 10 centimeters. And then this bridge, unlike the middle school bridge, it does have a weight requirement. It cannot be more than 95 grams. In top DQs for civil structures, I would say the number one is the angles. So obviously with the balsa wood that we're using, there are many angles on the bridges. They all have to be at 30 degrees or more, and we'll have a little activity to clarify this a little bit more in a few minutes. Again, coating is a big thing on this. White glue sticking out a lot. So again, sandpaper. Okay, so a few resources available for you. In the beginning, I did go over the curriculum that we have that has a lot of things that you can use for this. So please make sure you do that. Good old-fashioned Google with Mesa Day Bridges will actually show you a lot of our bridges so the students can get some ideas of what they want to build. And then there's also a stick together PowerPoint, and then an individual civil structure. So not put together like we have now because of time. So we will make sure that we get those to you as well. It has a little bit more information for you to use. And now for some tips and tricks that we've learned throughout the years for bridge building. The first one, and we're going to demonstrate it in a few minutes, is a dimensions sheet, basically. We started doing this a few years ago. It's basically putting all of your dimensions on a manila folder so that the students can have something quick to check their dimensions to make sure that they followed everything, all the rules. You can make one for high school. You can make one for middle school. If you have a Mesa class, I suggest that you do this as an activity with your students. It will take probably a class period, 25-30 minutes, depending on how fast the kids are. Otherwise, it's something good that you for you to have in the classroom. I know right now we're living in a virtual world, but I did want to touch on this because if and when we come back to school, it's something great for you to have in your classroom. I'll show a quick picture of it in this one here, and then we're gonna go into a video and demonstrate exactly how to create one. You will see we have a high school and then a middle school manila bridge. Manila folder. And like I said, further explanation will come in the next video. I have one of my undergraduate students, Michelle, who has been in charge of our bridges for a long time during our Mesa Day projects. She will be walking you through how to make one of these. Again, it's a great resource for your students to have. They can quickly check their dimensions, and hopefully that will help in not getting DQ during Mesa Day. And so now here is Michelle walking you through the Manila folder.
Hey everyone, so today we're going to work on something I like to call the inspection folder, and we're actually going to focus on the middle school rules for the bridges, but it can easily be transferred to the high school version, and we actually do have it somewhere in our presentation. So we're going to start is we're going to look at our measurements from the rules, and we have a restriction of 15 inches minimum in longitudinal length and a 17 inch maximum. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by working on our 15 inch line. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark a 15 inch mark, and then we're going to do it again, and now we're going to place our ruler, or I use the yardstick this time because it's easier for me and for time constraints. So you do it again and you place. Now I made a few. I have 1, 2, 3 here, and that it's my 15 inch line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the line based on the plotting. So there it is. Now we're going to label it. We always want to label so we know what this line is. All right. So then we have a maximum as well. So we're going to do it again. We're going to place it at the corner, and we're going to do a 17 inch mark, a few of these, and you're going to do it again, and then you're going to make a line. Now, so we're going to keep going from here, and again, we're going to label it, right? And then we have 17 inch length max. So now, I do have another one where it's a little bit more advanced than the one we're working on. So now we have our 15 inch length horizontal length minimum, and then we have a 17 inch maximum. Now, in our rules it says that we have to have at most a 7 inch height. And so I did the same. I grabbed a ruler, placed it on my corner, and I plotted my 7 inches, and I did it again a few times, and I made my line. Now this folder is a little bit more advanced in the sense that we have 2 more measurements here. And so what I did is, if you can actually see them, these folders have like these little tabs on the side. So what I did is I measured 3.5 on both sides, and then I cut them off just so that we can have like this little tab so we can use it later on for our judging. So now finally we're here. So I added our 4th inch width minimum and a 5 inch width maximum. Again, I did the same. I did 4 inches, I plotted, did my lines, and then I did a 5 inch, and I did the same. Now, because I know I'm going really fast through this, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna quickly use it so you guys can see it, because just by looking at lines it's a little bit confusing. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna use it so you can guys kind of understand how to use our folder. So now, so you see, if we place it down, we're gonna place it on the folder, and we can have 2 measurements right away. We have our 15 inch to 17. See if it passed our 15 inch line, but it's under a 17 inch line, so then it's perfectly fine. The same thing goes for our width. It's after the 4 inch line, and then but under the 5th inch width. So then now this one doesn't have a height. So then this part doesn't matter. But what does part matter is here. You remember how I said we have a 3 inch depth, so we can measure it here, and it's quickly. And then this one doesn't have a roadway, so it's good. And that's how you use it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. If you guys have any questions on that or anything else, our email will be posted at the end of this presentation, and we will also have a Q&A if we need to further clarify anything. Okay, so some activities like what we did with Michelle that will help the students with the top DQs. For high school, we're going to go into the high school bridge angles. I have another one of my undergrad students who works for us. His name is Luis, and he's going to come on in a video as well and build some angles and show you some gluing tips using T-pins and some measuring tips with protractors. You will notice that he has a piece of a protractor. Another little tip that we have for you is that you print out some protractors and just cut out a 30-degree angle. We also send those out to our schools. It's a lot easier for kids to have that little piece of paper as they're building bridges to check their measurements. Okay, and here is Luis with an angle activity.
Hello, today I'll be showing you some quick tips. To begin with, we have this angle right here. We want to make sure the angle is completely flat with each other. It can't be looking like that, or else the gluing won't be as efficient, right? So to glue these, we don't want to use too much glue, right? We have these handy pins that hold it steady because it does take a while to dry. I have this protractor cut to 30 degrees here to check the angles out to make sure they're not under. So to check, we place it right here. We can see that it's under. And we can see that it's over, the 30 degrees, right? So right here, I have an example of bad gluing. As you can see, it's coated all over the angle. So we can test these angles as well with the protractor. You can see this one comes close, but it is still safe, right? So we want to make sure we don't have excess gluing such as this, or maybe even the wax paper can get stuck on. We always want to sand out all the extra stuff just so we don't get disqualified. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. And now for another little activity that we like to do with our middle school students for the stick together is the rule about the 50% gluing. That's a big rule that gets DQ'd a lot as well. So hopefully this is a nice little visual for the students to learn what it means that you can only glue 50% of the popsicle stick bridge. We once again have Michelle demonstrating for you on the 50% gluing rule. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hey everyone, so as Jeanette talked about our 50% rule. This is one of our biggest problems when it comes to DQing a bridge. Most of the kids don't quite understand what the 50% rule means, and so we're going to talk about a little bit about it. So I have 4 demonstrations right here, and 2 of them are wrong, and then 2 of them are okay. So then we're going to start with the wrong one. Do you see how this is fine? It has enough space outside and then just small glued inside, and that's perfectly fine. The problem is when we see this side. So for me, it is the right side. So we're going to talk about my right side. So do you see how this glue, it's just glued all the way over here, and then you have a bunch more on the side. So what it means to be 50% is that the half of the stick can be glued. This, however, can be split in parts. If we see the next one, we're actually looking at 100%, because see, if these were, let's say they were separated a little bit, then we wouldn't be completely glued in the middle. And this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. When we look at the center, it's all completely glued, so that's 100%. So now we're gonna talk about this one. Now this one is fine because you see we were talking about this one if it had some space. Well, this one has that space. So now we can see that we have at least this 50 off, right? So then only on the inside parts of the popsicle stick are glued, so that means that we're actually a lot less than 50% here. Now, this last one, this one can be tricky because right now it's perfectly fine. See, they're only glued on one side, right? So that gives us 50%, and that's totally fine. The problem comes when students do this. So see, now we have a lot more gluing, and that breaks our 50%. So now I'm gonna show you guys a little trick I kind of picked up as I went through, and I have this trick using my fingertips. So we're gonna talk about this one. If I were to be using this one with our finger trick, is what I do is that we're gonna use our side popsicle sticks as our fingers. So what we're gonna do is this. Since our fingers are completely covered together, that means our stick is at 100% and it doesn't work. Now, the same thing happens here. What we do is that the whole stick is covered on one side mostly, and then you have this piece here. Now, because my fingers are overlapping, that means that there's more than 50% glue. And then here, these are the correct ones, it's just a little bit. So then that's perfectly fine. And that is how we use our 50% rule. Thank you.